You are standing on the edge of a vast industrial park late at night, where the streets are wide and empty, and the streetlights cast long pools of orange light on wet asphalt. The air is cool and misty, smelling of rain on concrete and distant damp grass. You are walking toward a massive building that stretches out into the darkness. It is a warehouse of immense proportions built of gray brick and steel, solid and silent in the night. You walk up the concrete steps to the side entrance and slide a key card into the reader. There's a small beep and a green light flashes once. You pull the heavy metal door open and step inside. The door closes behind you with a solid thud that seals out the world and seals out the noise, leaving you in a space of absolute quiet and climate-controlled stillness. The air inside is cool and dry, kept at a perfect temperature to preserve the paper. It smells of cardboard and dry wood pulp and faint dust. A smell that is clean and neutral and calming. You are standing in the receiving dock where pallets of goods are waiting to be sorted. You walk slowly across the polished concrete floor, your footsteps making a soft, echoing sound in the vast space. Click, click, click. You pass a row of wooden pallets stacked high with brown cardboard boxes. Each box is identical, printed with black serial numbers and barcodes. You stop to look at a label. It reads 20 pounds bond paper white. You run your hand along the side of the box, feeling the rough texture of the cardboard, the friction of the paper fibers against your skin. You count the boxes on the pallet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. 6 boxes per layer. 30 boxes perfectly aligned, perfectly stacked, waiting in the dark. You walk past the receiving area and enter the first main aisle of the warehouse. Aisle A. The shelves here rise up 30 feet into the air. Towering steel racks painted dull industrial orange, stretching away into gloom like a canyon of supplies. The lighting is set to a low-power saving mode. Just enough light to see by. A soft, dim haze that makes the shadows soft and long. You walk down the center of the aisle looking left and right at the inventory. On your left are rows of envelopes. Boxes upon boxes of white envelopes. Cream envelopes. Manila envelopes. You stop to pick up a sample box that has been opened. You slide the lid off. It makes a soft suction sound. SHHH pop. Inside are 500 envelopes packed tight, standing on there, edges like white soldiers. You run your finger along the tops of the envelopes, feeling the smooth paper edges. BRRT, a ripple of texture. You pull one envelope out and hold it in your hand. It is light and crisp. The paper is high-quality woven cotton blend. You look at the flap. The gum is shiny and dry, a thin strip of adhesive waiting to be moistened, waiting to seal a letter that has not been written yet. You slide the envelope back into box, pushing it down until it is flush with the others, replacing the lid, restoring the order. You continue walking down the aisle. The concrete floor is cool through the soles of your shoes, grounding you, connecting you to the foundation of the building. You pass a section dedicated to legal pads, stacks of yellow paper with blue lines. You can smell the faint chemical scent of the ink and the binding glue, a smell of offices and quiet work. You look at the blue lines on the pads, perfectly straight, perfectly parallel, spaced exactly, apart, line after line, page after page, thousands of miles of blue lines waiting in the dark. You imagine a pen moving across the paper, the scratch of the nib, the flow of the ink, writing slowly, writing nothing important, just writing to write, the rhythm of the hand moving across the page, left to right, down a line, left to right. You feel a heaviness in your eyelids as you visualize the repetitive motion, the endless lines, the endless paper. You reach the end of aisle A and turn the corner into aisle B. This aisle is filled with notebooks, spiral-bound notebooks, composition books, leather-bound journals, hard covers and soft covers, millions of blank pages. You stop at a shelf of black composition books, the ones with the speckled black and white covers. You remember these from school. The texture of the cover is pebbled and rough. You touch it, feeling the bumps, feeling the matte finish. You open a book and hear the crack of the spine, a fresh new sound. The paper inside is white with black lines, clean and untouched. You close the book and place it back on the stack, ensuring the edges are perfectly aligned with the book below it. Alignment is important here. Order is important here. Everything has a place. Everything is in its place. You walk further down aisle B. The silence is so deep you can hear the blood rushing in your ears, a soft whooshing sound like the sea. Whoosh, whoosh, matching the slow rhythm of your breath. In, out. The air is so still. Not a single draft. The dust motes hang suspended in the air, frozen in time. You see a forklift parked at the end of the aisle. It is yellow and black, silent and cold. The keys are gone, the engine is cold. The forks are low to the ground, resting on the concrete. A machine at rest, a machine asleep. You feel a kinship with the machine. You too want to power down. You too want to lower your burden to the ground, to sit still, to be heavy, to be cold, to be quiet. You leave aisle B and move toward the center of the warehouse where the small items are stored. This area has smaller shelves with thousands of plastic bins. You walk down a row of bins containing paper clips. Millions of paper clips, silver and gold and colored. Bent metal wire curved into a loop. You plunge your hand into a bin of jumbo silver paper clips. The metal is cool and smooth. The clips slide against each other, making a metallic chinking sound. Chink, 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 like coins or water. You let them slip through your fingers, falling back into the bin, a waterfall of silver wire. You do it again, lifting a handful and letting them fall, watching them tumble, watching them settle, finding their own level, gravity doing the work. You move to the next bin, which holds rubber bands, tan and red and blue. Soft loops of elastic, they smell of rubber and talc. A powdery, dry smell. You stretch a rubber band gently, feeling the tension, then let it go. It snaps back to its original shape, relaxed and loose, just like your muscles are relaxing now. Letting go of the tension. Snapping back to a state of rest, you walk past bins of staples, bins of push bins, bins of binder clips, tiny objects of organization, tiny tools of order, all sleeping in their plastic homes, waiting for the morning, waiting for work. But not now. Now is for silence. Now is for storage. You look up at the ceiling of the warehouse. It is lost in the shadows, a vast, dark space supported by steel trusses. You can hear the faint hum of the high bay lighting ballast, a low electrical buzz that is almost inaudible, beezy, a white noise that helps to empty your mind, clearing out the thoughts, leaving only the image of the shelves, the image of the boxes, the image of the aisles, stretching on forever. You find a small desk used by the inventory clerk. It is neat and tidy, with a computer monitor that is dark and asleep, a mouse resting on a blue pad, a cup of pens. You sit down in the office chair behind the desk. The chair is ergonomic and mesh. It creaks softly as you settle into it, holding your weight, supporting your back. You spin gently left and right. The chair rotates smoothly on its cylinder, round and round. A slow, gentle motion. You look at the cup of pens. There are blue pens, black pens, red pens, all capped, all standing up. You count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 pens, waiting to write, waiting to flow. You pick up a black pen and hold it. It is a simple plastic tube, light and balanced. You click the button on the top, click. The tip extends, click. The tip retracts, click. Extend, click, retract. A mindless fidgeting that soothes your nerves. Click, click, click. The sound is sharp and rhythmic in the quiet warehouse. Measuring the seconds, measuring the piece. You put the pen back in the cup and lean back in the chair, staring down the long, dark aisle of aisle C, looking at the perspective lines, the way the shelves converge in the distance, narrowing to a single point in the dark. Your eyes follow the lines, heavy and slow, traveling down the aisle without moving your feet, traveling into the dark, into the back of the warehouse, where the oldest stock is kept, where the dust is thickest, where the silence is deepest. You feel your breathing slowing down, becoming shallow and efficient, matching the stillness of the room. You're just another item in the inventory, stored in the chair, cataloged and safe, present and accounted for, resting in the grand warehouse of paper, resting in the grand warehouse of sleep. You stand up slowly from the creaking office chair, and the sound of the springs releasing echoes softly in the silence. Ping. You push the chair back under the desk and walk away from the small pool of comfort into the deeper shadows of the warehouse, moving towards aisle D, which is the aisle dedicated to writing instruments and markers. The shelves here are packed with small cardboard boxes and hanging blister packs, thousands of them, creating a wall of color and plastic. You stop to look at a display of highlighters, neon yellow, neon pink, neon green, neon orange, glowing faintly even in the dim light. You reach out and touch the plastic packaging. It is smooth and cool, reflecting the overhead lights in a long white streak. You imagine the sound of a highlighter cap being pulled off, pop, and the squeak of the felt tip against paper. Squeak, squeak. Highlighting a sentence, marking what is important. But here in the dark, nothing is important. Nothing needs to be. Highlighted, everything is equal. Everything is gray. You move further down the aisle to the section of permanent markers. The air here has a very faint chemical scent, a smell of alcohol and solvent that is sharp and clean. You look at the boxes of black markers, thick chiseled tips and fine points, all capped tightly to prevent them from drying out, preserving their ink for years. You pick up a box of 12 black markers. It is heavy and dense. You shake it gently. Rattle, rattle. The sound of the plastic barrels hitting each other. You put it back on the shelf, perfectly square of the edge. You continue walking, your feet feeling heavy on the concrete. The distance to the end of the aisle seems to stretch out forever, a tunnel of supplies. You reach the end and turn into aisle E, which is dedicated to adhesives and tapes. The smell here is different. It smells of rubber cement and acrylic glue, a sweet, sticky smell. You see rows of clear tape dispensers, the serrated metal teeth, glinting in the dark, waiting to cut, waiting to sever. You pick up a roll of masking tape, the beige paper kind. The texture is rough like crepe paper, slightly sticky on the edges. You run your thumb around the circumference of the roll, round and round, feeling the layers of paper wound tight. Hundreds of feet of tape rolled into a single circle, a spiral of adhesion. You press your thumb into the side of the roll. It gives slightly, soft, and yielding. You put the tape back and look at the rolls of silver duct tape, stacked like towers of heavy coins, shining in the gloom, strong and durable, holding the world together, holding the silence together. You walk past the glues, past the epoxies, past the mounting squares, moving deeper into the warehouse. The air seems to get cooler here, further away from the office, further away from the heat. You turn into aisle F, which is a filing and storage aisle. This is the quietest aisle of all, filled with soft materials. You see boxes of manila file folders, the color of pale wheat, smooth and stiff. You open a box and pull out a single folder. The tab is cut in the center, waiting for a label. You run your hand inside the folder. The cardstock is cool and dry. You slide it back in, hearing the soft rasp of paper on paper. SAHD, a whisper of organization. You look at the hanging file folders, the green ones with the metal hooks, hanging on rails in the boxes. You run your finger along the metal rails, cling, 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 a tiny metallic melody. You imagine a filing cabinet filled with these, drawers sliding open, drawers sliding shut, the satisfying thud of a heavy drawer closing, thud, sealing away the documents, sealing away the work, sealing away the day. You see a display of accordion files, expanded and open, looking like bellows or fans, waiting to be filled, waiting to be compressed. You find a large stack of cardboard storage bankers' boxes, the white ones with the lids, stacked 6 feet high, forming a wall of cardboard. You lean your shoulder against the stack. The cardboard is warm and rough against your shirt. It feels solid, a wall of paper bricks. You rest your cheek against the box, smelling the dry pulp scent. Close your eyes for a moment, listening to the hum of cooling fans in the ceiling. Whir, a constant steady drone that never changes, never falters, just air moving, just blades spinning, keeping the air moving, keeping the dust moving. You open your eyes and push yourself off the stack, continuing your slow walk. Your legs feel heavy like they are moving through water, slow and deliberate, conserving energy. You reach the back of the warehouse where the packaging supplies are kept, aisle G. This area is filled with soft protective materials. You see giant rolls of bubble wrap, standing on end, 5 feet tall, clear plastic sheets filled with trapped air, thousands of tiny bubbles, thousands of tiny pockets of breath. You walk up to a roll and hug it, wrapping your arms around the plastic cylinder. It is soft and yielding. The plastic crinkles against your chest. Crinkle, crinkle. You press your face into the bubbles. They are cool and smooth. You do not pop them. You just feel the pressure, the resistance of the air trapped inside. Safe and protected. You look at the rolls of foam sheeting, white and dense, looking like snow. You touch the foam. It is soft and velvety, leaving no fingerprint, recovering instantly from your touch. You see a large bin filled with packing peanuts, white styrofoam shapes, light as air, filling the bin to the brim. You plunge your arm into the peanuts, up to your elbow. They part easily, making a soft squeaking sound, squeak, squeak, surrounding your arm with warmth. Holding in a suspension of foam, you wiggle your fingers deep inside the bin, feeling the shapes, feeling the dryness. It is a strange dry bath, comforting and senseless. You pull your arm out slowly. The the peanuts tumbling back into the hole, covering your tracks, restoring the surface. You feel a deep wave of tiredness washing over you, starting from your head and moving down to your feet. The warehouse is too big. There's too much to see, too much to count. You just want to stop. You just want to stay in the packing aisle, wrapped in bubble wrap, packed in foam, shipped away to a land of sleep. But you must keep moving just a little further, just a few more steps. You walk toward the corner of the warehouse where the shipping dock is located. The bay doors are closed, large metal shutters that block out the night. There's a ramp leading down to the loading area. You walk down the gentle slope, feeling gravity pulling you down, assisting your steps, making it easier to walk down and down into the lowest part of the floor, where the air is coldest, where the shadows are longest. You see a wooden pallet sitting empty in the center of the loading bay. It is rough wood, scarred and splintered. You sit down on the edge of the pallet, your feet resting on the concrete floor. You lean forward, resting your elbows on your knees, letting your head hang down, looking at the floor, looking at the gray concrete, seeing the tiny cracks, the tiny stains, a map of the floor, a map of nothing. You listen to the silence of the loading bay. It is a heavy industrial silence, waiting for trucks that will not come, waiting for noise that is miles away. You are alone here, a tiny speck in the vast cathedral of commerce, surrounded by millions of objects, millions of papers, millions of pens, all silent, all sleeping, all waiting. You let out a long breath, exhaling the dust, exhaling the cardboard smell, inhaling the cool air, feeling it fill your lungs, cooling you from the inside out. Your heartbeat slows down, thump, 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 matching the slow tick of the cooling metal roof above you. Tick, tick, settling in for the night. Contracting the cold, relaxing the structure, relaxing the frame. Just as you are relaxing your frame, letting your shoulders drop, letting your hands hang loose, ready to shut down, ready to go offline, ready to be stored, ready to sleep. You slowly stand up from the rough wooden pallet on the loading dock, and your joints feel stiff and heavy from the stillness. You stretch your arms over your head, reaching towards the dark ceiling, and let out a quiet sigh that is swallowed instantly by the vast empty space. You turn away from the bay doors and walk back up the gentle concrete ramp towards the main floor of the warehouse, your shadow stretching long and thin in front of you, cast by the distant security light. You walk past the rows of packing peanuts and bubble wrap and head toward the western wing of the building where production and finishing department is located. You push through a set of heavy double swing doors that have small reinforced glass windows in them. The doors swing open with a heavy whoosh of air and then swing back and forth behind you. Thud, 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 settling into silence. The air in this room smells distinctly different. It smells of machine oil and hydraulic fluid and fresh cut. Paper dust, a sharper industrial scent that is strangely comforting. You're standing in a large room filled with massive heavy machinery. These are machines that cut and bind and finish the paper. They are silent now. Sleeping giants painted in industrial greens and grays. You walk up to a massive industrial paper guillotine. It is a huge table made of polished stainless steel that gleams in the low light. Smooth as ice, you run your hand across the metal surface. It is cold and frictionless. Your hand glides over it without any resistance. Above the table is a blade, a massive block of steel hidden behind a yellow safety guard. Waiting to come down, waiting to slice through reams of paper in a single stroke. You imagine the sound it makes when it is working, a loud hydraulic hiss, and then a heavy chop, SA chunk, cutting perfect straight edges, creating perfect stacks. But now it is powered down, the hydraulic pumps are silent. The oil is settling in the reservoir. The blade is at rest. You look at the floor around the machine. There are tiny scraps of white paper that escape the vacuum system, looking like snow on the gray concrete. You walk to the next machine, which is a spiral binding machine. It has spools of black metal wire feeding into it. Coils of wire that look like endless springs. You touch the wire. It is cool and oily. You trace the spiral with your finger, round and round, a continuous loop of metal. You see a bin next to the machine filled with paper punches, tiny round dots of paper, millions of them. White confetti created by the hole punch. You plunge your hand into the bin of dots. It feels soft and fluid like dry sand. The paper dots flow around your fingers, creating a soft, rustling sound. You pull your hand out and watch the dots cascade back down, settling into a white mound, a dune of waste paper. You wipe the paper dust from your hands and move on. walking past a laminating machine that smells faintly of heated plastic even though it is cold, past a folding machine with complicated rollers and belts, rubber belts that are cracked with age, steel rollers that are shiny and smooth. You look at the complexity of the machine, the gears, the pulleys, the levers, all designed to fold a piece of paper in half, again and again, precise and mechanical. You leave the production floor and enter a smaller enclosed room labeled Specialty Paper Archive. You open the door and the air inside is even cooler and drier than the rest of the warehouse. The humidity is strictly controlled here to protect the expensive stock. The shelves are made of wood instead of metal, lined with velvet to prevent scratching. You walk down the short aisle, looking at the boxes. These are not ordinary papers. These are fine papers, watermark bond, 100% cotton rag, linen finish, parchment, vellum. You pull out a box labeled Ivory Parchment 24 pounds. You lift the lid, and the smell of the paper wafts up a rich, creamy smell of old-fashioned quality. You touch the top sheet. It has a mottled texture like clouds. It feels crisp and stiff. You rub your thumb and forefinger over the corner, feeling the grain, listening to the snap of the fiber. This paper is waiting for important words, waiting for diplomas, waiting for certificates. But tonight it is just waiting. You close the box and slide it back. You look at a roll of translucent vellum standing in the corner. It looks like frosted glass, rolled tight. You can see the shadow of the tube inside to the layers of paper, milky and white. You walk to the back of this small room where there's a table for inspecting the paper. There's a light box built into the table, a surface of white plastic that lights up from below. You flip the switch on the side of the table, click, and the surface glows with a soft white light, illuminating your face. You take a sheet of watermark paper from a stack and place on the light. The light shines through the fibers, revealing the hidden logo in the paper, a translucent image floating in the sheet, a ghost in the machine. You stare at the watermark, focusing on the lines, focusing on the light. The bright white rectangle is mesmerizing, drowning out the shadows, drowning out the room. You turn the switch off, click, and the darkness rushes back in, heavier than before. Your eyes take a moment to adjust to the gloom, seeing floating spots of light in the dark. You leave the Specialty Paper Archive and walk back out into the main warehouse. The space feels enormous after the small room. You feel small and insignificant in the face of all this inventory. You walk toward the break room area, seeking a place to sit that is softer than a pallet, softer than a cot. You find the door marked Employee Lounge. You push it open and enter a room with linoleum floors and vending machines. The vending machines are humming loudly, the lights inside them casting a colorful glow on the floor. Blue from the soda machine, white from the snack machine. You look at the rows of sodas, the cans sitting in their chutes, waiting to drop, waiting to be chosen. You look at the coils of wire holding the chips and candy bars, spirals of metal just like in the binding machine, holding the snacks in suspension. You see a round table with 4 plastic chairs. You sit down in one of the chairs. It is molded plastic, smooth and hard, orange in color. You put your elbows on the table and rest your chin in your hands, looking at the coffee maker on the counter. The glass pot is empty and stained brown, a memory of coffee, a memory of energy. You watch the second hand on the wall clock in the break room. It is a cheap plastic clock with a loud mechanism, tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound is very distinct in the quiet room, marking the passing of the night, marking the time. Until morning, you match your breathing to clock. Inhale on the tick, exhale on the tock, inhale, exhale, slowing down your heart, slowing down your thoughts. The hum of the vending machines is hypnotic, a constant drone that creates a blanket of sound, blocking out the silence of the warehouse, blocking out the vastness outside. You feel your head getting heavy, nodding forward, catching yourself, nodding again. The orange chair is not comfortable enough for sleep, but it is a resting point, a station on the way to sleep. You stand up slowly, pushing the chair back, scraping the linoleum, screech, a harsh sound that makes you wince. You walk out of the break room back into the dim warehouse, looking for a softer place, looking for the final place. You remember the bedding section in the far corner, the place where they store blankets for moving pads, quilted and thick. You turn your feet in that direction, walking slowly past the janitorial closet where the mops hang like sleeping animals, past the water fountain that drips slowly, drip, 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 walking toward the softest aisle, walking towards a quilted darkness. Your steps are silent now. You are a ghost in the machine, floating through the aisles, floating through the paper, floating toward the end of the shift, floating toward the end of the night, ready to wrap yourself up, ready to shut down, ready to sleep. You walk away from the break room, leaving the hum of the vending machines behind you, the colorful glow fading into the darkness as you step back into the vast main corridor of the warehouse, the silence rushing back and to fill the space around you, heavy and thick and comforting. You walk toward the far end of the building where the heavy-duty moving supplies are stored. Your footsteps fall softly on the concrete. The rhythm is slower now, drag. Step, drag, step. You are conserving every ounce of energy. Your body feels like a heavy weight that you are carrying through the dark. You reach aisle H, which is marked with a hanging sign that says moving and storage. The shelves here are wider and deeper, holding bulky items. You see stacks of wardrobe boxes standing tall and flat, large sheets of cardboard that will one day hold suits and dresses but now hold nothing but air. You run your hand down the side of a wardrobe box. It is smooth and cool, a monolith of cardboard. You walk past bundles of packing paper, newsprint that is unprinted, gray and soft, wrapped in plastic, looking like giant loaves of bread. You see a row of hand trucks and dollies parked against a racking, two-wheeled carts made of red metal with black rubber tires. You touch the handle of a hand truck. The rubber grip is textured and firm. You give the tire a gentle kick with your toe. Thud. It is solid rubber, no air, no bounce. Designed to carry heavy loads. Designed to bear the weight, just as the floor bears your weight. You look at the wheels, simple circles of industry, silent and still. You move further down the aisle to the section containing moving pads and furniture blankets. These are stacked in high piles, folded into neat squares. They are dark blue and black, made of recycled cotton and synthetic fibers. You can smell the fabric, a dusty textile smell that is dry and earthy, like an old attic or a fabric store. You reach out and touch a moving pad. The fabric is quilted, with a zigzag stitching pattern. Endless rows of white thread holding the layers together. You trace the zigzag line with your finger, up and down, a seismograph of stillness. The fabric is thick and padded, designed to protect furniture from scratches, designed to soften the blows of the world. You pull one of the blankets from the middle of the stack. It is heavy and limp in your hands, a dead weight of comfort. You unfold it slowly, flap, flap. The sound is muffled and dull, not crisp like the paper. It is a sound of absorption. You spread the blanket out on the floor in the space between the racking, creating a dark blue island on the gray concrete. You go back to the stack and get another one, unfolding it and placing it on top of the first, adding a second layer of padding, adding a second layer of insulation. You do this again and again, 3, 4, 5 blankets, building a nest of quilts, building a better protection. The stack is now thick and inviting. A soft platform in the hard warehouse. You sit down on the edge of your makeshift bed. The quilts compress under you, firm but yielding, insulating you from the cold floor. You take off your shoes, untying the laces slowly, left foot, right foot, placing them neatly side by side next to the pallet rack. You swing your legs up onto the blankets, stretching out fully. Your back settles into the padding, the zigzag stitching pressing gently against your clothes. You grab one more blanket from the shelf to use as a cover, pulling it over your body. It is heavy and weighted, pressing you down, holding you in place. The weight is incredibly soothing, telling your muscles they don't need to work anymore, telling your nerves they can stop firing. You lie there in the dark aisle, surrounded by cardboard boxes and hand trucks, hidden from the entrance, hidden from the office, hidden from the world. You look up at the rack above you, seeing the underside of the shelf, the metal grating, the shadows of the boxes stored. Above, it looks like a city skyline in the dark, inverted and silent. You listen to the building, the metal beams contracting the cool night air. Ping. A tiny sound of settling. Creak. A tiny sound of adjustment. The building is breathing. The building is resting, and you are resting with it. You feel the warmth building up under the heavy moving blanket, your own body heat trapped and reflected back to you, creating a microclimate of sleep, a cocoon of warmth in the cool warehouse. Your hands are resting on your chest, rising and falling with your breath, slow and shallow, barely moving the heavy blanket. You are safe here, protected by the inventory, guarded by the forklifts, watched over by the silence. The smell of the recycled cotton is nostalgic and dusty, filling your nose, filling your head, drowning out the sharp smell of the ozone. drowning out the smell of the markers, leaving only the smell of soft gray sleep. You close your eyes and the darkness of the warehouse becomes the darkness of your mind, a vast empty space with no walls, no ceiling, just endless quiet. You are drifting on a raft of moving pads, floating down a river of concrete, passing the aisles like islands, passing the shelves like cliffs, drifting deeper into the storage, drifting deeper into the back of the building, where the lost items go, the forgotten items go, to rest, to wait, to sleep. You are heavy, you are soft, you are still. Nothing moves, nothing stirs. Only the slow dust settling on the floor, only the slow beat of your heart. Sleep is coming now, heavy and dark like the blanket, covering you completely, tucking you in, weighing you down. Sleep now. You lie there under the heavy weight of the moving blanket, and the darkness seems to press down gently on your eyelids. The only thing you can see is a vague outline of the steel racking above you, looking like a skeleton of gray metal in the gloom. You focus your eyes on a single bolt head on the shelf above, a small hexagonal shape that is dull and unpolished, holding the massive steel beam in place, holding the weight of the boxes, doing its job silently for years without moving. You admire the steadfastness of the bolt, the patience of the steel. You feel the vibrations of the floor beneath the blankets, tiny tremors from the earth, tiny tremors from the distant city, vibrating to the concrete slab and into your spine, a gentle massage from the planet itself. Hum, hum. You listen to the ventilation duct high above in the shadows, a large metal tube carrying cool air. You can hear the air rushing through it, a soft hollow wind sound, whoosh, whoosh, circulating the atmosphere, keeping the air fresh, keeping the paper dry. You imagine the path of the air, traveling from the roof, through the filters, to the fans, down the ducts into the room, into your lungs, a continuous cycle of breath. You feel your chest rise and fall in time with the imaginary rhythm of the fans, slow and mechanical. You're becoming less biological and more structural. Your bones feel like steel beams. Your muscles feel like heavy canvas. Your blood feels like hydraulic fluid moving slow and thick, cooling down, thickening, slowing. You close your eyes and visualize the layout of the warehouse in your mind, a blue grid of aisles and shelves. You mentally turn off the lights in each aisle, one by one. Click darkness. Aisle A is dark. Aisle B is dark. Aisle C is dark. Walking through your mind, shutting down the building, shutting down the work, shutting down the need to see. The darkness spreads across your mental map, a wave of black ink spilling over the floor plan, covering the pens, covering the paper, covering the desks, until the whole warehouse is just a black square in your mind, empty and quiet. You feel a deep sense of relief at this emptiness. There is nothing left to check, nothing left to count. The inventory is done. The audit is complete. You're just a package on a shelf now, wrapped in blue cotton labeled "Do Not Disturb," stored in the deep storage section, waiting for a future that is far away. The smell of the moving blankets is strong and earthy, grounding you, reminding you of soil and roots. You feel like a seed planted in the concrete, dormant and resting, waiting for a season that takes centuries to change. You feel your fingers twitch slightly, releasing the last bit of tension. Your toes curl and uncurl, finding the perfect position. Your jaw goes slack. The tongue falls away from the roof of the mouth. The face becomes smooth and expressionless, a mask of sleep. You are drifting on a concrete sea, a flat gray ocean that stretches for miles. No waves, no storms, just flat gray calm, supporting you, holding you up. You surrender to the hardness of the floor, letting it flatten your back, letting it straighten your spine, aligning you with gravity, aligning you with the center of the earth, heavy and flat and still. You are sinking into the blankets, sinking into the floor, sinking into the foundation, becoming part of the bedrock, solid and stone and silent. Sleep is not just a state of mind, it is a place. And you have arrived at the gates of that place. The gates are made of heavy cardboard. The walls are made of paper. The floor is made of concrete. And inside is the quiet. Inside is the dark. Inside is the rest you've been walking towards. Step by step, aisle by aisle, box by box. You are here now, safe in the warehouse of dreams, safe in the factory of sleep, shut down, powered off, still. The silence in aisle H becomes absolute as the last settling sounds of the building fade away, leaving only the quiet rhythm of your own existence. You feel the heavy moving blanket pressing down on your shoulders, pressing down on your hips, a comforting pressure that mimics a hug from the darkness itself. You visualize the air in the warehouse standing perfectly still, the millions of cubic feet of atmosphere resting motionless between the shelves, holding the dust in suspension, holding the silence in suspension. You imagine the dust motes slowly drifting down, gravity pulling on them with the lightest touch, landing on the tops of the boxes, landing on the concrete floor, adding a microscopic layer of time to the inventory, a layer of gray quiet that covers everything, coating the world in sleep. You feel your own thoughts settling just like the dust, slowly drifting down to the bottom of your mind, coming to rest on the floor of your consciousness, forming a soft gray layer of nothingness. No more movement, no more swirling, just stillness. You imagine yourself as a single sheet of paper inside one of thousands of boxes, a clean white sheet of bond paper surrounded by 499 other sheets, pressed together, holding each other up, sharing the darkness, sharing the box. The lid is on tight, sealed with tape, blocking out the light, blocking out the warehouse. You are safe inside the ream, safe inside the package. There's no ink on you, no words, no numbers, just potential, just white space, resting in the center of the stack, protected by the layers above and the layers below. You feel the stability of the shelf under the box, the steel beams holding you up, unshakable and strong. You've been there for years. You will be there for years more. Time means nothing to box. Dates mean nothing. Schedules mean nothing. It is always dark, always cool, always quiet. You feel a deep sense of patience washing over you, the patience of paper, waiting for a pen that never comes, content to wait, content to be blank. You let go of the need to be useful, let go of the need to be read. You are simply material, simply fiber, simply existing in the dark. The warehouse expands around you in your mind. Miles of shelves, miles of silence. A fortress of solitude built of cardboard and steel, guarding your rest, guarding your sleep. The heavy blanket on your body feels like the cardboard lid closing over you, sealing you in. You accept the seal, you accept the closure. You are ready to be archived, filed away under S for sleep, labeled with today's date, and stored in the permanent collection. Never to be disturbed, never to be moved, just resting in the deep, cool archives of the night, sinking deeper into the padding, sinking deeper into the floor. The concrete is your foundation, the earth is your shelf, holding you, keeping you, sleeping you, down, down, down into the gray, into the quiet, into the final stillness of the warehouse night. The heavy blue quilt is now a part of you, a second skin that weighs you down and anchors you to the concrete floor, merging your body with the industrial architecture of the warehouse. You feel the coolness of the floor seeping to the layers of padding, a geological cool that reminds you of deep caves and underground rivers, steady and unchanging. You turn your attention to the vast network of pipes that run across the ceiling high above you in the dark. The fire suppression system, a grid of red iron pipes filled with water, holding tons of liquid in suspension against gravity, waiting for a fire that will never come, waiting in silence. You imagine the water inside the pipes, dark and still, sitting there for years, motionless, stale, pressurized, sleeping in the iron veins of the building. You follow the grid with your mind's eye, tracing the lines of the main riser valve down the main artery, branching off into smaller lines, ending in the brass sprinkler heads. Thousands of them pointing down like closed eyes, watching over paper, watching over you. You feel a sense of safety knowing the water is there, a silent guardian in the roof. You listen to the distant hum of the main electrical transformer located outside the building walls, a low-frequency vibration that travels through the brick and steel. A sound of raw power contained and regulated, waiting to be used, waiting to flow. You visualize the copper, wires running through the conduit. In the walls, miles of wire, insulated in plastic, carrying electrons in a loop, sitting idle in the switches, sitting idle in the outlets. Electricity at rest, potential energy sleeping in the copper. You let your mind wander to maintenance closet located near the loading dock, a small room with a slop sink and a floor drain. You imagine the smell inside that room, the smell of lemon cleaner and bleach and damp cotton. You see the mop bucket sitting in the corner, bright yellow plastic on, black caster wheels, dry and empty, the wringer handle sticking up like a lever, silent and still. You see the mop hanging from a hook on the wall, the gray cotton strands dangling down, stiff and dry, looking like the hair of a sleeping ghost, waiting to be wet, waiting to slide across the floor. But not tonight. Tonight the floor is dry. Tonight the floor is resting. You see the bottles of cleaning fluid on the shelf, blue liquid, green liquid, pink liquid, clear plastic bottles with white spray nozzles sitting in a row. The liquid inside is perfectly flat. No bubbles, no movement, just colored water waiting to dark. You feel a sense of order in the maintenance closet. Everything is a hook. Everything is a place. The brooms are hanging up. The dustpans are hanging up. Nothing is on the floor. The floor is clear. The mind is clear. You leave the mental image of the closet and return to your body under the blankets. You feel the weight of your own hands resting on your stomach. Fingers interlaced or loose. It doesn't matter. They are heavy and dead weight. Tools that are finished working. Tools that are powered down. You feel the fabric of your socks against your feet. The weave of the cotton, soft and warm. Protecting your toes, you wiggle your big toe just once. A tiny movement that feels like it takes immense effort. Deciding not to do it again. Deciding to be still. Deciding to be stone. You are a statue lying in the warehouse. Carved from marble, draped in cloth. Lying on a pedestal of concrete. Timeless and unmoving. The air around you is still and dust-free. The light is dim and gray. The silence is deep and heavy, filling your ears like water, drowning out the noise of the day, drowning out the noise of the world, leaving only the hum, leaving only the dark, leaving only the sleep that is rising up around you like a tide, slow and irresistible, covering your feet, covering your legs, covering your chest, covering your neck, until you are submerged in the ocean of rest, floating on the bottom, heavy and peaceful and gone. The tide of sleep continues to rise around you, filling the aisles with a dense invisible liquid that slows down time and dampens every sound. You are completely submerged now in the atmosphere of the warehouse, breathing in the slow air that tastes of cardboard and time. You let your mind drift away from your body and float upwards toward the high shelves in aisle J. This is the aisle where the obsolete forms are stored. Carbonless copy paper and triplicate invoice pads that are no longer used by anyone. Stacks of green and white paper that are slowly turning yellow at the edges. You look at a box labeled Purchase Orders 1998. The cardboard is faded and soft. The tape is peeling slightly at the corners, revealing the brown glue underneath. You imagine the forms inside. Hundreds of sheets of paper with boxes waiting to be checked. Lines waiting to be signed. Dates waiting to be filled in. But the dates have all passed. The years have all gone. The forms are useless now. They have no purpose other than to sit on the shelf and occupy space. Occupy in silence. You feel a deep sympathy for these forgotten papers. They are retired. They are finished, just like you are finished for the day. Retired from the world of action. Resting in the world of stillness. You float past boxes of typewriter ribbons, black and red spools of ink that have dried out years ago, encased in plastic, waiting for machines that no longer exist. You see a box of correction fluid. Tiny white bottles with little brushes inside. The fluid has separated into oil and chalk. Sitting quietly in the dark, separated and still, you drift down toward the floor again, settling like a feather on the concrete. You look at the dust bunnies that have gathered under the bottom rack, soft gray clumps of linen and fiber that have rolled there on the drafts of the ventilation system. They are the tumbleweeds of the warehouse, rolling slowly, stopping, resting, gathering more silence, gathering more gray. You reach out with your mind and touch the cold steel leg of the pallet rack. It is painted a dull industrial orange, but the paint is chipped near the bottom, revealing the dark gray steel underneath. You trace the jagged edge of the paint chip, a tiny landscape of wear and tear, a tiny map of an accident that happened years ago, a forklift bump, a pallet scrape, a moment of noise that is now frozen, the metal, silent and cold. You feel the solidity of the steel. It is rooted in the floor, bolted down with heavy anchors, immovable and permanent. You wish to be like the steel, bolted to the bed, bolted to the sleep, unable to move, unable to think, just holding the weight, holding the quiet. You listen to the faint sound of rain begin to fall on the metal roof high above, a soft drumming sound, tap, 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 distinct and distant, millions of drops hitting the corrugated metal, creating a white noise that washes over the building, washing the roof, washing the skylights, washing the world. The sound is rhythmic and random at the same time, a chaotic lullaby that soothes your brain. You imagine the water flowing down the gutters, rushing to the downspouts, gurgling into the drains, flowing away into the night, carrying the dust, carrying the day, carrying you. You are flowing with the water, flowing with the rain, sliding down the roof, sliding into the dark, sliding into the sleep. The warehouse is a ship sailing through the rainy night, a cargo ship filled with paper, and you're the captain sleeping in the hold. The engines are off, the sails are furled, the anchor is dropped, the ship is drifting on the current of the night, slowly turning the dark round and round, slow and steady. Nothing to steer, nothing to navigate, just drifting, just floating, just sleeping. The sound of the rain on the roof settles into a steady background drone that blends perfectly with the hum of the ventilation system, creating a cocoon of white noise that wraps around the entire building. You let your mind wander away from the rain and back down to floor level, drifting towards aisle K, which is the aisle dedicated to desk accessories and rubber stamps. You float down the aisle looking at the shelves filled with small boxes. You stop at a box of traditional rubber stamps, the kind with the ashwood handles and the red rubber bottoms. You imagine holding one in your hand. The wood is smooth and varnished. The rubber is firm and cool. You look at the words molded into the rubber in reverse. DIP, DVICR, paid, received, faxed, urgent, words of bureaucracy, words of processing, words that demand action. But here they are sleeping. The rubber is dry. There is no ink. There is no paper. The words are silent. You see a row of self-inking stamps in plastic. Casings, black and red mechanisms with springs inside. You press down on a handle of one in your mind, feeling the spring compress, hearing the mechanical kerchunk sound as the die rotates and hits the internal ink pad. Kerchunk, kerchunk, a satisfying rhythm of administration. Stamping the air, stamping the silence, stamping nothing. You put the stamp back and look at the boxes of ink pads, dry felt pads, and tin boxes. Black ink, red ink, blue ink, smelling faintly of dye and sponge. Sitting in the dark, waiting to be moistened, waiting to leave a mark. You move to the next section, which holds rotary date stamps, the ones with the tiny rubber bands on wheels. You imagine turning the little plastic wheels with your thumb, friction against the skin, spinning the days, spinning the months, spinning the years, Jan, February, Mar, 2024, 2025, 2026. Time is just a rubber wheel. Time is just a setting. You can scroll backward, you can scroll forward, or you can leave it blank. You leave the date stamp set to nothing. A blank line in time. You walk past the desk organizers, the black wire mesh cups for pens, the wire mesh trays for paper, in baskets and out baskets, stacked on top of each other, emptiness on top of emptiness. You look through the wire mesh, seeing the grid pattern, seeing the shadows behind the grid. A cage for paper, a cage for work. But the cage is open. The cage is empty. Nothing is coming in. Nothing is going out. The workflow has stopped. The office is closed. You see a shelf of waste baskets, round metal cylinders made of the same black mesh, looking like industrial nets. You look in the bottom of a wastebasket, seeing the clean circular metal bottom. Nothing to throw away, nothing to discard. Everything is kept. Everything is stored. You feel a sense of cleanliness looking at the empty bin. A mind free of trash. A mind free of clutter. You drift past the Rolodexes, the rotary card files, vintage and round, sitting in their boxes. You imagine spinning the knob on the side of a Rolodex. The cards flipping by. Flip, 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 flip. A fast blurring sound like a deck of cards being shuffled, names and numbers flying by. Stopping on a random card, a blank card, a white rectangle with no name, no number, just space. You are that blank card, inserted into the file, spinning on the axis. Hidden among the others, you feel the circular motion of the file, round and round, turning in the dark, turning in the sleep, the aisle seams. To stretch out, the boxes repeating, the stamps repeating, the mesh repeating. A pattern of office supplies that has no end. You're lulled by the repetition, lulled by the sameness, bored by the inventory, bored by the stamps. Your mind is tired of looking at objects, tired of identifying things. It wants to stop naming. It wants to stop seeing. It wants to turn off the light. It wants to close the drawer. You feel the heavy moving blanket on your real body pressing you down, reminding you where you are, not in the office, not the desk, but on the floor, on the concrete, under the quilt, under the roof, under the rain, safe and sound, heavy and bound, ready to sleep, ready to drown in the deep gray quiet of the stationary night. The smell of the rubber stamps and the old ink slowly evaporates into cool air as you drift further down the concrete floor towards aisle L, which is the aisle dedicated to binders and presentation supplies. The air here smells strongly of fresh vinyl and PVC plastic, a clean synthetic smell that reminds you of new school supplies and organized projects. You look at the shelves rising above you. They are packed with thousands of three-ring binders standing upright with their spines facing out, creating a wall of color. Rows of black binders, rows of white binders, rows of royal blue binders. You walk past the 1-inch binders, thin and sleek, holding only a small amount of space. You walk past the 3-inch binders, thick and heavy, capable of holding hundreds of pages. You stop to look at a white view binder, the kind with a clear plastic pocket on the cover. The plastic is wrinkled slightly at the corners, reflecting the dim light in a jagged line. You imagine sliding a piece of paper into that clear pocket, sliding it down slowly, smoothing out, labeling the binder, giving it a name, giving it a purpose. But tonight it has no name. It is just a white rectangle in the dark. You pull the binder from the shelf, hearing the friction of the vinyl against its neighbor's essence rub, a squeaky plastic sound. You open the cover. The cardboard stiffener inside makes it rigid and strong. You look at the 3 metal rings inside, shiny chrome steel, perfectly round, meeting in the center with jagged teeth. You locate the 2 metal triggers at the top and bottom of the spine. You place your thumbs on them in your mind and press down. Snap. The rings fly open with a loud mechanical crack that echoes in the silent aisle. A sound of release, a sound of opening. You look at the open rings, waiting to receive paper, waiting to hold on. You press the rings back together, click. They lock shut with satisfying finality, securing the air, securing the nothingness. You put the binder back on the shelf, pushing it in until it aligns perfectly with the edge. You move down the aisle to the section of sheet protectors, boxes of clear plastic sleeves. You pull a sheet protector out of a box. It is slippery and smooth, almost liquid in your hand. It has a static charge that makes it cling to your fingers. Cling, cling. You rub the plastic between your thumb and forefinger, feeling the lack of texture, feeling the smoothness. You try to separate the 2 layers of plastic to open the sleeve, blowing gently on the edge, puff. The layers separate, creating a pocket of air, a transparent envelope for a ghost document. You let the sheet protector fall from your hand. It floats down slowly, swaying side to side like a falling leaf, catching the air, landing silently on the concrete. You look at the packages of index dividers, the ones with the colored plastic tabs. Red, yellow, green, blue, clear, 5 colors repeating over and over. You look at the reinforced holes on the dividers, little rings of clear plastic tape strengthening the paper, making it tough, making it last. You imagine flipping through a binder filled with these dividers. Flip, tab, moving from section to section, organizing information, compartmentalizing the world. You feel a desire to compartmentalize your own mind, to file away your thoughts behind colored tabs, put the worry behind the red tab, put the work behind the blue tab, put the future behind the green tab. And then, close the binder, close the cover, snap the ring shut, leave it on the shelf, walk away. You walk away from the binders, walk away from the organization, feeling lighter, feeling unburdened. Your mind is loose, your pages are loose, nothing is bound, nothing is stuck. You are free floating in the warehouse, drifting past the vinyl, drifting past the chrome. The smell of the plastic is hypnotic, a smell of permanence. A smell of preservation. You feel the heavy quilt on your body again. It feels like the cover of a binder, wrapping around you, protecting you. The floor is the back cover, the blanket is the front cover, and you're the content inside, safe and secure, held in place by the gravity of night. You are closed, you are shelved, you are quiet, the aisle stretches on, the binder standing guard, a library of empty books, a library of silence, watching over you as you drift deeper, sinking into the concrete, sinking into the plastic sleep, secure and locked and still. You drift away from the wall of vinyl binders and the smell of plastic fades into background as you move deeper into the warehouse towards aisle M, which is the aisle dedicated to mailing tubes and shipping cylinders. The air here returns to that dry, familiar scent of spiral wound cardboard and craft paper. You look at the shelves and see thousands of cardboard tubes stacked in honeycomb patterns. Long tubes for posters, short tubes for documents, thick tubes and thin tubes, all perfectly round, all perfectly hollow. You pick up a long mailing tube from the shelf. It is light but rigid. You hold it up to your eye like a telescope, looking to the cylinder, framing a circle of darkness at the other end. You see nothing but the shadow of the warehouse, a tunnel of gray focused into a single point. You run your hand along the outside of the tube, feeling the spiral seam where the cardboard overlaps, round and round the length of the tube, a continuous spiral line that is no beginning and no end. You put the tube back into the stack, sliding it in, hearing the dry scratch of cardboard on cardboard. As a clunk, you look at the white plastic end caps that seal the tubes, popping them on, popping them off, sealing the air inside. You walk past a section of corrugated shipping boxes. These are flattened and strapped together in bundles of 25, lying flat on the pallets. You look at the edge of a flattened box, seeing the cross-section of the cardboard, the tiny wave pattern of the fluting inside, up and down, a tiny architectural wave sandwiched between two liners, creating strength from air, creating strength from paper. You run your fingernail along the fluting, zip, a tiny vibration that travels up your arm. You marvel at the engineering of the box, waiting to be folded, waiting to be taped, waiting to travel. But now it is flat, two-dimensional, and asleep. You leave the cardboard aisle and turn into aisle N, which is dedicated to presentation boards and white boards. The lighting here reflects off the glossy surfaces. You see rows of white boards leaning against the racking, framed in aluminum. The surfaces are porcelain on steel, smooth as glass, cold and white. You touch the surface of a board. Your finger slides effortlessly, leaving no mark, leaving no trace. It is a surface of pure potential, waiting for ideas, waiting for lists. But tonight it is blank, a white void of silence. You look at the tray at the bottom of the board where the accessories live. You see a dry eraser eraser, a block of foam, a layer of black felt on the bottom. You pick it up. It is light and grippy. You press the felt against the white board and move it back and forth. Wipe, 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 erasing nothing. Cleaning the clean surface, making it whiter, making it emptier. You imagine your mind as a whiteboard, covered in scribbles and notes and worries. And you are taking this felt eraser and wiping it all away, one swipe at a time, erasing the to-do list, swish, erasing the schedule, swish, erasing the names, swish, until the board of your mind is perfectly white, perfectly glossy, reflecting only the silence of the room. You look at the cork bulletin boards next to the white boards, sheets of brown cork framed in wood. The texture is rough and porous, full of tiny holes, absorbent and soft. You press your thumb into the cork. It gives slightly spongy and natural, smelling of oak trees and bark. A warm smell compared to cool whiteboard. You imagine pinning a blank piece of paper to cork, thumbtack, holding it there, a blank message for no one. You feel the contrast between the smooth white and the rough brown, textures of the office, textures of the work, fading away into textures of sleep. You drift away from the boards, feeling your mind completely wiped clean. No more marks, no more dust, just a clean slate. You feel the gravity of the warehouse pulling you back down to your bed of moving blankets, calling you back to the floor, calling you back to the warmth. You settle back into your body, feeling the heavy quilt pressing on your chest, pressing on your legs. The weight is reassuring. The weight is real. You're not floating anymore. You are grounded. You are heavy. You are a heavy box on the bottom of the pallet, bearing the weight of the night, bearing the weight of the sleep, solid and square and still. The white bars are watching you with their blank faces. The tubes are watching you with their hollow eyes. The warehouse is a silent audience to your rest, holding its breath, keeping the quiet, waiting for you to let go completely, waiting for you to sink into the white, sink into the cork, sink into the floor. Sleep now. You turn away from the blank white boards, and the silence follows you like a shadow as you move slowly towards aisle O, which is the section designated for drafting supplies and technical drawing instruments. The air here smells distinctly of cedar wood and graphite, and the faint, oily scent of modeling clay. It is an artistic smell, but precise one. You walk down the aisle looking at the shelves filled with mechanical pencils, thousands of them in slender boxes, blue barrels, black barrels, Stainless steel barrels. You imagine picking one up and clicking the top. Click, click. A tiny rod of lead appearing at the tip. Thin as a hair, fragile and dark. You look at the replacement lead containers. Tiny plastic tubes no bigger than a matchstick, filled with graphite rods. HB, 2B. For H, varying degrees of hardness, varying degrees of darkness. You think about the difference between a hard line and a soft line. A hard line is faint and scratchy. A soft line is dark and smooth. You imagine drawing a line on a piece of smooth paper, the graphite sliding across the surface, leaving a trail of gray dust, a continuous journey from left to right, never stopping, never lifting the pencil, just flowing. You look at the displays of rulers, wooden rulers with metal edges, clear plastic rulers with grid lines, stainless steel rulers that gleam in the dark. You touch a steel ruler. It is freezing cold against your skin, rigid and unbending. You run your finger along the etched markings, the tiny lines measuring millimeters and inches, tick, 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 counting the distance, counting the space, measuring the silence. Everything here is straight. Everything here is true. There are no curves in a ruler, only the infinite straight line. You drift past the geometry sets, the metal tins containing compasses and protractors. You imagine opening a tin, the smell of the metal and the velvet liner. You pick up a compass in your mind, the sharp metal point and the graphite point. You plant the metal point in the center of a paper, anchoring it, and you spin the compass round and round, drawing a perfect circle. The circle connects the beginning to the end, enclosing the space, enclosing the quiet. You watch the circle spinning, a wheel of graphite, a wheel of sleep. You put the compass back and look at the erasers, white vinyl blocks wrapped in cardboard sleeves, soft and pliable, waiting to remove mistakes, waiting to make things disappear. You press your thumb into a kneaded eraser, the gray putty kind. It gives under your pressure, soft and doughy, holding the shape of your fingerprint. You fold it over, kneading it, squish, squish, absorbing the graphite, absorbing the worry, absorbing the tension, leaving nothing but clean space. You move further down the aisle to the tubes of technical vellum, large rolls of translucent paper used for blueprints. The paper is milky white and crisp. You hear the crinkle of the paper in your mind, a dry sound like autumn leaves. You see the T-squares hanging on the wall, long wooden tools with plastic heads, hanging in rows like sleeping bats, vertical and still, waiting for a drafting table, waiting for an architect. But the architect is asleep. The plans are rolled up. The buildings are finished. There is nothing to draw, nothing to design, only the stillness of the tools. You feel a heaviness in your arms, as if they are made of lead, heavy like the pencils, heavy like the rulers. You cannot lift them. You do not want to lift them. You let them hang by your sides, pulling your shoulders down, pulling you down toward the floor, toward the blanket, toward the rest. You feel the geometric order of the aisles seeping into your brain, organizing your thoughts into straight lines and perfect circles. No chaos, no mess, just grids and angles and smooth gray surfaces. The drafting supplies are the tools of silence, measuring the quiet, drawing the dark. You surrender to precision, surrender to the order, letting the warehouse straighten you out, letting the warehouse measure your sleep, calculating the depth, calculating the length, infinite and deep and dark. You leave the precise world of the drafting supplies and continue your slow drift through the warehouse, entering aisle P, which is the aisle dedicated to business machines and calculators. The air here smells faintly of warm electronics and anti-static plastic, a scent of calculation and commerce that is now dormant and cold. You look at the shelves filled with boxes of desktop calculators, gray and black machines with large angled displays. You imagine sitting at a desk and pressing the buttons. The keys are large and plastic, and they make a satisfying clacking sound, clack, 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 entering numbers, entering data, adding up columns of figures that stretch on forever. You look at the solar panels on the calculators, small rectangular strips of dark glass waiting for the light, waiting for the sun to wake them up. But here in the dark they are asleep. The screens are blank, the numbers are gone, 0, 0, 0, nothing to count, nothing to add. The sum is silence. You walk past the adding machines, the heavy ones with the rolls of white paper tape attached to the back. You look at the paper tape, a clean white scroll waiting for ink, waiting for record transactions. You imagine the sound of the printing head, CH, 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 printing numbers on the paper, feeding the tape out, rip, tearing off, checking the total. But tonight the tape is rolled tight. The ink ribbon is dry. The machine is unplugged, the cord wrapped neatly around the back, resting. You see a display of paper shredders, boxing machines with plastic teeth hidden inside. You run your hand along the top of a shredder. The plastic is smooth and cool. You look at the slot where the paper goes in, the mouth of the machine, waiting to devour documents, waiting to destroy secrets. You imagine feeding a piece of paper into the slot, hearing the motor whir, watching the paper disappear, turning into tiny strips, turning into confetti, falling into bin below. You imagine taking your worries, taking your stress, writing them on a piece of paper, and feeding them into the shredder, watching them turn into nothing, watching them fall away, shredded and gone. The bin is empty. The motor is silent. The danger is gone. You move past the laminators and the binding machines, come into a section of batteries, rows and rows of blister packs hanging on hooks, AAA, 9-volt, copper and black cylinders, holding chemical energy inside, sleeping power. You think about the energy stored in those batteries, waiting to be used, waiting to spark, but they're still in the package, still on the hook, saving their energy, preserving their power, just like you are preserving your power, storing your energy for the future. You feel a kinship with the batteries, heavy and dense and still. You drift past the label makers, handheld devices with tiny keyboards. You imagine typing a label, SLEP, printing it out on sticky tape, sticking it on your forehead, labeling yourself as sleeping, labeling yourself as off-duty. The warehouse is full of machines that help people work, but tonight they are machines that help you rest. Their silence is a heavy blanket that covers the aisle, covers the floor, covers you. You feel the gravity pulling you back down to your moving blanket bed, pulling you away from the electronics, back to the simple comfort of the cotton and the concrete. You lie back down in your mind, feeling the floor beneath you solid and unmoving. The calculations are done. The totals are checked. The balance is zero. Perfectly balanced. Perfectly still. You are not a machine. You are a sleeper. You do not need to add. You do not need to subtract. You only need to be breathing the cool air, breathing out the day, letting the numbers fade away, letting the screens go dark, letting the power drain away until the indicator light goes out, off, silent, sleep. You drift away from the silent calculators and the dark screens of the business machines, moving slowly into aisle Q, which is the aisle dedicated to fine art supplies and paints. The air here changes, immediately becoming rich and earthy, smelling of linseed oil and turpentine and raw cotton canvas. A smell of creativity that is currently paused and sleeping in the dark. You look at the shelves filled with metal tubes of oil paint, thousands of small lead tubes crimped at the bottom. You pick up a tube labeled burnt sienna. The metal is cold and malleable. You can feel the heavy pigment inside, thick and dense. You squeeze the tube gently and hold the shape of your thumb, a permanent impression in the metal. You look at the cap. It is screwed on tight, sealing the color inside, sealing the brown earth tone away from the air, preserving it for a painting that has not been painted yet. You put the tube back and look at the rows of watercolors, small plastic pans of dry hard paint, looking like little squares of colored candy. You touch the surface of a blue square. It is dry and rough, waiting for water, waiting for a brush, waiting to dissolve and flow. But tonight it is solid. Tonight it is dry. You move to the section of paintbrushes, long wooden handles with metal ferrules holding soft bristles. You run the tip of your finger across a large wash brush. The bristles are incredibly soft like animal fur. They bend and recover instantly. Sweep, sweep. You imagine the brush moving across a canvas, silent and smooth, spreading color, spreading silence. You take a fan brush and brush it against your cheek. It feels like a whisper, barely there, a ghost of a touch. You put the brush back in its holder, standing upright with the others, a forest of wooden handles, a forest of sleeping tools. You walk past the stretched canvases, white rectangles stretched tight over wooden frames. Tight as a drum, you tap the center of a large canvas with your finger. Thud, thud, a low hollow sound that vibrates in the quiet aisle. The surface is rough and primed with gesso, waiting to catch the paint, waiting to hold the image. You run your hand over the rough weave. A dry friction sound. You feel the tension in the canvas, that we're holding the fabric taut, holding the strain, so you don't have to. You can be loose, you can be slack, The canvas will be tight for you. You look at the sketchbooks. Heavy books with spiral bindings and thick toothy. Paper. You open a sketchbook and smell the paper. It smells with pulp and size. A clean, neutral smell. You turn the pages. They are heavy and stiff, turning slowly flap, flap, blank page after blank page. A white desert paper, endless space for endless quiet. You see a box of charcoal sticks, burnt willow branches, black and dusty. You touch a piece of charcoal. It leaves a smudge of black dust on your fingertip, a shadow of the wood. You rub the dust between your fingers. It is silky and fine, almost like water. You wipe your hand on your pants, blending the shadow into the fabric. Merge with the dark. You feel the artistic potential of the aisle fading away, replaced by the simple reality of the objects. The tubes are just metal. The brushes are just hair. The canvas is just cloth. They are stripped of their meaning in the dark. They are just shapes and textures, heavy and still. You feel the weight of the colors pressing down on the shelves. The weight of the lead, white. The weight of the cadmium, yellow. Heavy metals sleeping in the tubes, dragging you down with their density, dragging you down to the floor. You feel your body responding to the gravity of the paint, becoming heavy and dense like the pigment, settling to the bottom of the tube, settling to the bottom of the warehouse. The aisle seems to close in around you, a tunnel of art supplies protecting you from the outside. The smell of the oil paint acts like a sedative, thick and intoxicating, slowing your heart, slowing your mind, making the world blur into a soft impressionist painting of gray and black. No sharp lines, no hard edges, just soft shadows and deep peace. You drift back toward your moving blanket bed, carrying the silence of brushes with you, carrying the stillness of the canvas with you, lying down again, pulling the heavy blue cooled up to your chin, closing your eyes, seeing the colors swirling in the dark, slow and thick, mixing and merging, turning into the color of sleep, the color of rest, dark and rich and deep. You drift away from the smell of oil paints and the texture of the canvas moving slowly down the long concrete corridor towards aisle, which is the aisle dedicated to gift wrap and party supplies. The air here smells faintly of glossy paper and adhesive tape, and the sweet synthetic scent of ribbon. It is a smell of celebration that has been paused and stored away in the dark. You look at the shelves filled with tall bins holding rolls of wrapping paper, thousands of tubes standing upright like a forest of colorful bamboo. You run your hand along the tops of the rolls, feeling the smooth paper edges. Some are foil, some are matte, some are glossy. You pull a roll of foil paper from the bin. It reflects the dim security light with dull metallic gleam. You touch the surface. It is cold and slippery, crinkling slightly under your touch. Crinkle, crinkle, a sharp, crisp sound that cuts through the silence. You look at the pattern on the paper, faint stripes of silver and white, repeating over and over, round and round the tube, a pattern of infinite celebration. You put the roll back into the bin, sliding it down until it hits the bottom with a soft thud. You move to the shells of ribbons, spools of satin and curling ribbon stacked in rows, red, blue, green, gold. You unwind a few inches of double-faced satin ribbon, running it between your thumb and forefinger. It is incredibly smooth and fluid like water, cool to the touch, slipping through your fingers without any friction. You watch the ribbon curl onto the floor, a loop of color in the gray aisle. You roll it back up, winding it tight, winding it orderly, placing it back on the shelf. You look at the packages of tissue paper, flat squares of delicate paper folded into plastic sleeves. You imagine opening a package and unfolding the tissue. The sound would be a soft rustle like dry leaves or a whisper, "Hey." You imagine crumpling a piece of tissue paper into a ball, compressing the air, making a soft white cloud in your hand, then smoothing it out again, trying to make it flat. But the wrinkles remain, a map of the crumpling, a map of the sound. You walk past the gift bags, rows of paper bags with rope handles, standing open on the shelf. Open mouths waiting to be filled, waiting to hold a secret. You look inside a large blue gift bag. It is dark and empty inside, a small cave of paper. You put your hand inside the bag, feeling the cool air trapped within, feeling the silence stored. In the bag, nothing to carry, nothing to give, just emptiness. You move to the section of greeting cards, a wall of slots filled with envelopes and cards. You pick up a card at random. The cover has a picture of a balloon, but in the dark it is just a gray oval. You open the card and look at the inside. It is blank, waiting for a message, waiting for a signature. You run your finger over paper. It is thick and textured, Cardstock quality. You close the card, snap, the sound is small, and final. You put it back in the slot, tucked away. You see a box of party hats. Cardboard cones with elastic strings, stacked inside each other's save space. A tower of cones. You touch the point of the top hat. It is sharp and stiff. You ping the elastic string, pling. A tiny vibration that disappears instantly. There's no party here. There's no noise. The confetti is packed in bags. The streamers are rolled tight. The noisemakers are silent. The celebration is asleep. You feel a sense of relief that there is no party. No need to smile. No need to talk. No need to socialize. Just the quiet of the warehouse. Just the company of the paper. The aisle of celebration is actually the saddest and quietest aisle of all. A museum of unspent joy. Sleeping in the dark. You feel the tiredness pulling at your legs again, heavy and insistent. The floor is calling you. The blanket is calling you. You turn away from the ribbons and the bows. Walking back towards your nest in the moving aisle. Your footsteps are heavy and slow. Drag. Step. Drag. Step. Carrying the weight of the night. Carrying the weight of the silence. You reach your pile of moving blankets and sit down. The relief is immediate. Your muscles soften. Your bones settle. You lie back down, pulling the heavy quilt up to your ears, blocking out the warehouse, blocking out the aisles, closing your eyes and seeing only the dark, hearing only the hum, feeling only the weight, safe and sound, wrapped and sealed, ready to be shipped to the land of sleep. You leave the aisle of uncelebrated parties and continue your slow, hypnotic walk to the warehouse, moving towards aisle S, which is the aisle dedicated to plastic storage and organization containers. The air here smells distinctly of fresh polypropylene and molded plastic, a clean, sterile scent that smells like newness and order. You look at the shelves rising up into the darkness filled with stacks of plastic totes, clear bins with blue lids, solid gray industrial bins, white bins with latching handles, thousands of empty spaces waiting to be filled. You walk up to a stack of large, clear storage bins. They are nested inside each other to save space. A tower of transparency. You look to the side of the stack, seeing the layers of plastic blurring the view, distorting the light. You run your hand down the side of the top bin. It is perfectly smooth and frictionless, cool to the touch. You trace the reinforced rim of the bin, feeling the structural ridges that make it strong. You imagine lifting the top bin off the stack, hearing the sound of plastic sliding against plastic. It's a clack, a hollow sound of separation. You imagine placing the bin on the floor and picking up a lid. The lid is light and flexible. You place it on top of the bin and press down on the corners. Snap, snap. The sound of the lid locking into place is satisfying and final, sealing the air inside, sealing the silence inside. You look at the latches on the side of the heavy-duty bins. Big plastic handles that flip up to lock, click up, flip down to open, click down. You play with the latch in your mind, opening and closing the container, securing the contents, securing the nothingness. You walk past the plastic drawer units, the small 3-drawer towers used for desk supplies. You pull a drawer open. It slides out on plastic runners, rumble slide. It wobbles slightly, empty and light. You push it back in, bump. It hits the backstop, close, hidden. You look at the tiny plastic organizer for screws and beads, little grids of compartments. You count the compartments, 1, 2, 3, 4, row after row of empty squares, waiting for clutter, waiting for chaos. But here there is no chaos, only the grid, only the empty squares. You feel a desire to take your thoughts and put them into these bins. Put the loud thoughts in the gray bin, put the bright thoughts in the clear bin, put the heavy thoughts in the bottom drawer. And then close the lids, snap the latches, slide the drawers shut, leaving your mind completely empty and organized, shelved and stored. You walk past the stackable crates, the ones with the diamond pattern holes in the sides. You put your fingers through the holes, gripping the crate, lifting it up in your mind, feeling the lightness of the air passing through the mesh. You put it back down, stacking it perfectly on the one below, the feet locking into the grooves, stable and secure, a tower of order. You feel the atmosphere of the aisles seeping into your bones, the stability of the plastic, the durability of the materials, synthetic and long-lasting. You feel as though you could sleep here for 100 years and nothing would change. The plastic would not rot, the bins would not rust, everything would just stay exactly as it is, preserved in the dark. You feel the pull of the moving blankets again, the call of the soft cotton nest you built. You turn away from the hard plastic surfaces, turn away from the cold efficiency, Walking back toward the softer side of the warehouse, back to aisle H, your footsteps are silent on the concrete. You are a shadow moving through shadows, passing the shelves, passing the years. You reach your bed and lie down. The relief is instant. The blankets accept your weight, molding around you. You pull the heavy quilt up, covering your shoulder, covering your ear, shutting out the warehouse, shutting out the plastic, leaving only the warm, dark hair of the blanket. You breathe in the smell of the cotton, breathing out the smell of the plastic, neutralizing the senses, turning off the inputs. You are a storage bin now, sealed and latched, your eyes are the lid, closed and locked. Your mind is a container, holding only quiet, holding only sleep, safe on the shelf, safe on the floor, drifting, drifting, drifting. You lie still under the heavy quilt for a long moment, feeling the warmth accumulate around you, but your mind continues its slow patrol of the building, drifting away from the plastic bins and moving towards aisle T, which is the aisle dedicated to time management and calendars. The air here smells of fresh ink and binding glue and the faint chemical scent of synthetic leather covers. You look at the shelves filled with stacks of daily planners, black and blue and burgundy books with dates stamped. In gold foil on the covers, 2025, 2026, 2027, years that have not happened yet stored in the dark. You pick up a Black Day planner. The cover is soft and padded, mimicking the feel of leather. You open it and hear the spine gently crack. The pages are crisp and white printed with gray lines. You look at the layout of a single day, broken down into hours and half hours, 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m., 9 a.m., a grid for activity, a cage for time. But here the grid is empty. There are no appointments written down, no meetings scheduled, no deadlines to meet. The hours are just lines on paper, open and free. You run your finger down the time column, sliding past noon, sliding past 5 o'clock, sliding into the evening. The paper is smooth under your fingertip. You find a ribbon marker attached to the spine, a thin strip of black satin. You pull it tight and lay it across the page, marking today, marking now. But now is eternal in the warehouse. You close the book. The sound is a soft thud, shutting away the future, shutting away the schedule. You put it back on the stack, perfectly aligned with the others, a tower of unlived time. You move to the section of wall calendars, flat square packages wrapped in plastic. You look at the covers, pictures of mountains, pictures of beaches, pictures of kittens, frozen images of the outside world. You look at a calendar of tropical beaches, seeing the turquoise water and the white sand. But it is just a picture, just ink on glossy paper. There is no heat, there is no sound of waves, only the silence of the aisle. You imagine hanging a calendar on a wall and flipping the pages. Month by month, January, flip. February, flip. March, flip. Speeding through the year in seconds, time flying by with a rustle paper, until you reach December, until you reach the end. And then you take it down and throw it away. A cycle of paper, a cycle of time. You look at the large desk blotters, massive pads of paper meant to sit on a desk, creating a soft surface for writing. You touch the paper. It is vast and white, a landscape of emptiness. You imagine doodling on the corner of the blotter, drawing cubes, drawing spirals, filling the white space with mindless ink. But the blotter is clean, not a mark on it, waiting for a desk that is miles away. You see a display of hourglasses, decorative glass timers filled with white sand. You pick one up and turn it over, watching the sand begin to fall. Trickle, trickle, a tiny stream of grains falling from the top bulb to the bottom bulb, measuring 3 minutes, measuring an egg, measuring a breath. You watch the pile of sand growing at the bottom, a tiny cone of silence. You are mesmerized by the flow, gravity pulling the time down, grain by grain, until the top is empty and the bottom is full. The time has run out, but nothing has changed. The warehouse is the same. The darkness is the same. You do not turn it over again. You let the time stay at the bottom, finished and settled. You leave the hourglass on the shelf and walk away from the calendars, walking away from the tyranny of the clock, walking away from the structure of the week. You do not need Tuesday. You do not need Wednesday. You only need the night. You only need the now. You feel the fatigue returning to your body, heavy and sweet, pulling you back to your nest, pulling you back to the moving blankets. You walk slowly back to aisle H, familiar now, a path worn in your mind. You reach the blankets and lie down again. The warmth is still there, trapped in the cotton, waiting for you. You settle in, pushing your feet down the bottom quilt, feeling the heavy fabric draped over you, a shield against time, a shield against the schedule. You close your eyes and see the empty pages of planner in your mind, white and clean in lines, fading into gray, fading into black, the numbers falling off the page, the lines dissolving, leaving only the open space of sleep, deep and unmeasured. And still, you leave the aisle of unlived time and silent calendars behind you, drifting slowly through the shadows towards Aisle U, which is a vast open section dedicated to office furniture and seating. The shelving here disappears and is replaced by long rows of assembled desks and chairs sitting on a concrete floor, like a phantom office that spans for acres. The air here smells of new upholstery foam and particle board, and the distinct scent of vinyl edging. You walk down a row of office chairs, hundreds of them lined up shoulder to shoulder, black mesh chairs, gray fabric chairs, tall leather executive chairs, looking like a silent audience waiting for a presentation that will never happen. You stop in front of a large black leather chair with high back support. The leather is smooth and cool, reflecting the dim overhead light. You run your hand over the headrest, feeling the grain of the material, soft and pliable. You imagine sitting in this chair, sinking into the cushions feeling, the pneumatic cylinder compress under your weight, SH sink, lowering you down, catching you, holding you. You imagine reaching down and pulling the lever to recline, leaning back, way back, until you're looking at the ceiling, suspended in balance, floating in the chair. You look at the wheels at the base of the chair, 5 black plastic casters. You give the chair a gentle push. It rolls silently across the smooth concrete, glide, glide, moving without effort, moving without sound. You stop the chair and look at the armrests, padded and adjustable, waiting to support your elbows, waiting to take the weight off your shoulders. You leave the chairs and walk past the desks, rows of laminate surfaces in beige and gray and fake with grain. Clean flat surfaces stretching out into the dark. You run your hand along the edge of a desk. It is cool and hard. The T-molding plastic edge is smooth. You look at the grommet holes in the back of the desks, round. Plastic caps covering the holes for wires, keeping the cables organized, keeping the chaos hidden. You open a drawer in a metal pedestal desk. It slides out on ball bearing runners, rumble, a low heavy sound. The drawer is empty, painted white inside, a clean metal box for holding air. You push a closed, thud. The sound is solid and reassuring. You walk past the standing desks, the ones with motors to lift them up. You imagine pressing the button, hearing the electric whir as the desk rises up, 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 changing the perspective. But tonight they're all at the lowest setting, all powered down, all resting at the bottom. You see a row of heavy metal lateral file cabinets, wide and imposing, painted putty and black, built like tanks to hold paper. You touch the cold steel front of cabinet. It feels like an ice block, dense and impenetrable. You try to handle, but it is locked. The mechanism is engaged, secure and safe. You feel a sense of protection, knowing the cabinet is locked. Whatever's inside is safe. Whatever's outside is kept out. The furniture stands like a fortress of bureaucracy, heavy and immovable. You feel the tiredness in your legs growing stronger. The walk to the furniture has been long. The chairs are inviting, but they are not a bed. They are for work. They are for sitting up. You want to lie down. You want to be horizontal. You want to be soft. You turn away from the hard laminate and the cold steel, walking back toward the pathview. No, so back to aisle H. The journey seems shorter now. Your mind is mapping the silence, mapping the dark. You reach the moving blankets, and they look like a dark blue island of softness in the hard gray sea. You lie down again, the quilt accepting you back, the warmth returning instantly. You stretch your legs out, feeling the muscles lengthen, feeling the joints release. You're not a chair. You're not a desk. You are a living, breathing sleeper, finding your place on the floor, finding your place in the quiet. The furniture aisle watches you from a distance, the chairs standing guard, the desks holding their ground. But you are safe here in the soft aisle, safe in the cotton, safe in the dark, closing your eyes, letting the image of the office fade, letting the image of the work fade, seeing only the back of your eyelids, seeing only the sleep that is waiting for you, deep and heavy and still. You turn away from the silent rows of office chairs and the heavy metal filing cabinets, moving your tired feet slowly across the concrete floor towards aisle V, which is the aisle dedicated to lighting supplies and electrical accessories. The air here is noticeably cooler and smells faintly of dust on glass, and the ozone scent of static electricity. You look at the shelves filled with boxes of light bulbs, thousands of them stacked in neat rows, incandescent bulbs, LED bulbs, halogen bulbs, all sleeping in their cardboard sleeves. You pick up a package of standard 60-watt bulbs. The cardboard is thin and flimsy, holding the fragile glass globes in place. You slide a bulb out of the package, holding it by the brass base. The glass is perfectly round and smooth, cool to the touch. You look inside the clear globe, seeing the tiny tungsten filament suspended on thin wires, a microscopic bridge of metal waiting for the current, waiting to glow white hot. But right now it is cold and dark, a gray wire in a glass cage. You give the bulb a tiny, gentle shake, hearing the filament vibrate, ping, a sound so high and faint it is almost imaginary. You put the bulb back in the sleeve, sliding it home, protecting the glass, preserving potential for light. You look at the long boxes of fluorescent tubes, 4-foot-long cylinders of white glass wrapped in brown paper, stacked horizontally like logs. You run your hand along the length of a tube box, feeling the cylindrical shape, feeling the fragility. You imagine the gas inside the tube, mercury, vapor, and argon, heavy and invisible, sitting at the bottom of the glass, waiting to be excited, waiting to buzz. But tonight there's no buzz, no flicker, just the silence of the gas. You walk past the surge detectors, strips of plastic with row after row of outlets, looking like hungry mouths waiting for plugs. You look at the red power switches on the strips. They are all flipped to the off position, the little neon. Indicator lights are dark. No power is flowing. The circuit is open. The energy is stopped. You see it been filled with extension cords, heavy-duty orange and yellow cords coiled up into perfect circles. You pick up a thick orange cord. It is heavy and rubbery, smelling of vinyl and copper. You trace the coil with your finger round and round, following the path of the wire, a loop of power that goes nowhere. You imagine plugging one end into the other, creating an infinite loop of nothing. Circle of sleep. You put the cord back, watching it settle into the bin, relaxing its coils, finding its resting shape. You see the boxes of desk lamps, flexible neck lamps, and architect swing arm lamps, folded up inside their boxes, bent into sleeping positions, heads tucked down, springs relaxed, waiting to shine on a document, waiting to shine on a task. But the tasks are done. The desk is empty. The lamp is dark. You feel the absence of light in the aisle as a physical weight, a heavy blanket of shadow that presses against your eyes, soothing them, telling them there is nothing to see, nothing to focus on. The darkness is the only truth in the warehouse, the only constant. You feel a familiar pull your own bed, the moving blankets in aisle H. They are calling you back from the world of glass and wire, call you back to the world of cotton and wool. You turn around and begin the slow walk back, moving past the bulbs, moving past cords, leaving the electrical potential behind, walking back into neutral zone. Your steps are automatic now, one foot in front of the other, navigating the grid by instinct. You reach the blankets, and they welcome you like an old friend. The shape of your body is still imprinted on the top quilt, a hollow of warmth waiting to be filled. You lie down and exhale, a long, slow breath that empties your lungs of the ozone, empties your lungs of the dust. You pull the cover up, tucking it under your chin, feeling the texture of the fabric against your neck, rough and reassuring. You close your eyes and see the filament of the light bulb in your mind, glowing faintly for a second and then fading out, dimming down, turning orange, then red, then gray, then black, cooling down, turning off, leaving you in the perfect absolute dark of the warehouse night. Sleep is a switch, and you have flipped it off. You leave the darkened aisle of light bulbs and electrical cords behind you, moving deeper into the recesses of the warehouse towards aisle W, which is the aisle dedicated to janitorial and sanitation supplies. The air here carries a distinct scent of lemon and pine, and the sterile smell of industrial cleanliness. It is a smell that signals the end of the day, the smell of tidying up, the smell of washing away the dirt of the world. You look at the shelves reinforced with heavy steel to hold the weight of liquids, rows and rows of gallon jugs filled with floor cleaner, blue liquid, green liquid, yellow liquid, heavy translucent plastic jugs sitting side by side. You can see the level of the liquid inside each jug, perfectly flat and still. You imagine the liquid is heavy and viscous like syrup, sitting in the dark for years, waiting to be poured, waiting to dissolve, but tonight it is sealed tight. The caps are screwed on with machine precision, keeping the scent inside, keeping the power inside. You walk past the boxes of sponges, yellow cellulose blocks with green scrubbing pads on one side. You pick up a package of sponges. They are light and dry, filled with millions of tiny air pockets. You squeeze the package gently, feeling the sponge compress squish, feeling it spring back. You imagine the sponge soaking up water, becoming heavy and soft, absorbing the spills, absorbing the noise, absorbing the thoughts, holding them inside its pores until they're squeezed out and washed away, leaving nothing but clean space. You look at the long handles of the brooms and mops hanging from hooks on the rack, a forest of wooden and aluminum poles. You touch the bristles of a push broom, stiff black synthetic bristles, rigid and straight, waiting to push the dust, waiting to sweep the floor, but the floor is still, the dust is settled. The broom is resting, hanging vertically in the gloom. You see the mop heads, large bundles of white cotton string, looking like heavy wigs. They are dry and clean, smelling of raw cotton. You run your hand through the strands. They are soft and thick, tangling around your fingers, a comforting mess of fabric. You walk past the boxes of trash bags, heavy-duty black plastic rolls. You touch the box, feeling the weight of the plastic. You imagine unrolling a trash bag, snapping it open with a shake. Snap, a loud sound of emptiness. Looking into the black void of the bag, a portable hole. You imagine taking everything that worries you, every deadline, every noise, every stress, and throwing it into the black bag, tying the top in a double knot, tight and secure, and leaving it on the curb, leaving it in the dark. Walking away, you see the wet floor signs, yellow plastic triangles that fold flat. Caution, wet floor. But the floor is dry, the danger is gone. The signs are folded and stacked. Sleeping signals. You feel the urge to be clean, to be empty, to be washed of all the sensory input of the day. You want to be like the clean floor, smooth and polished and bare, reflecting only the silence. You feel the heaviness of the liquid jugs transferring to your limbs. Your blood feels like heavy soap, moving slow and thick through your veins, cleaning you, slowing you, weighing you down. You turn away from the cleaning supplies, satisfied that the world is tidy, satisfied that the mess is contained. You begin the slow walk back to your sanctuary in aisle H. The journey is automatic now. Your body knows the way. Left at the end of the aisle, straight past the packing supplies, right at the moving boxes. You see your pile of blankets waiting for you, a soft shadow in the gray light. You sit down and take off your shoes again, placing them side by side. You slide under the heavy quilt, feeling the familiar texture, the familiar warmth. It is the only place in the world that matters right now, the center of your universe. You close your eyes and visualize a sponge in your mind, yellow and porous, soaking up the last drops of wakefulness, soaking up the last drops of light, leaving you dry, leaving you empty, leaving you clean, ready for the deep sleep, ready for the dark. You lie under the blankets for a moment, letting the silence settle, but the warehouse has one more layer of protection to show you. So you slowly rise from your warm nest and move towards aisle X, which is the aisle dedicated to safety equipment and personal protective gear. The air here smells of new rubber and silicone and a faint scent of chemical fire retardant. It is a smell of caution and preservation. You look at the shelves filled with boxes of disposable earplugs, thousands of pairs of orange and yellow foam cylinders. You pick up a small plastic packet containing 2 earplugs. You squish one of the foam plugs between your fingers, rolling it into a tight, thin cylinder, feeling it compress, feeling it become dense. You watch it slowly expand back to its original shape, puffing out, filling the space. You imagine putting them in your ears, blocking out the hum of the warehouse, blocking out the sound of your own breath, creating a seal of absolute silence, a vacuum of sound. Where only peace exists, you look at the boxes of safety glasses, clear plastic lenses with side shields. You pick up a pair and put them on your mind. The world looks slightly glossy and distorted to the polycarbonate, a shield for your eyes, protecting you from dust, protecting you from sharp edges, protecting you from the light. You see the rows of hard hats, yellow and white and blue, rigid plastic shells with suspension straps inside. You run your hand over the smooth dome of A. White hard hat. It is cool and slick, designed to deflect impact, designed to keep the head safe. You look at the suspension webbing inside, a cradle of nylon straps. You imagine a hat floating on your head, a helmet of sleep, guarding your thoughts, guarding your dreams. You walk past a high-visibility safety vest, neon yellow and orange mesh fabrics with reflective silver stripes, hanging on hangers like glowing ghosts. You touch the mesh. It is rough and airy. You run your finger down. The silver reflective tape. It feels like sandpaper, rough and gritty, catching the dim light and sending it back. You imagine wearing a vest, glowing in the dark, visible and safe, a beacon of rest in the gray aisles. You move to the heavy equipment section, seeing the fire extinguishers mounted on brackets, heavy red cylinders filled with pressurized powder. You touch the cold steel tank. It is solid and dense, holding its breath, holding the pressure. You look at the pressure gauge, the tiny yellow needle resting in the green zone, charged and ready, perfectly balanced, waiting for a heat that isn't there. You see the boxes of dust masks, white filter cups with elastic bands, looking like muzzles for silence. You imagine breathing to the filter, the air coming in clean and slow, filtered of all impurities, filtered of all worry, just pure oxygen feeding the sleep. You see the first aid kits, white metal boxes with red crosses. You open the lid of a kit in your mind, seeing the rows of bandages, the rolls of gauze, the antiseptic wipes, everything organized, everything ready to heal, waiting to fix a cut, waiting to soothe the pain. But there is no pain here, only the dull ache of tiredness. The gauze is soft and absorbent, ready to wrap you up, ready to bind the sleep to you. You feel the overwhelming sense of safety in this aisle. Everything is designed to protect you. Everything is designed to keep you from harm. You are surrounded by shields, surrounded by filters, surrounded by cushions. You feel your defenses dropping because you don't need them anymore. The warehouse is doing protecting for you. The equipment is standing guard. You can let down your guard. You can take off your armor. You can be soft. You can be vulnerable. You turn away from the hard hats and the extinguishers, walking back toward the softness of aisle H. The orange earplugs are still in your mind, plugging the world, muffling. The steps. You reach your pile of blankets, and they look softer than ever, a cloud of blue cotton waiting to receive you. You lie down, and the transition is seamless, from the hard concrete to the soft quilt. You pull the blanket up over your head this time, creating a cave, creating a mask, blocking out the warehouse completely, breathing your own warm air, safe in the dark, safe in the silence, protected by the aisle, protected by the sleep. You wander away from the safety equipment and protective silence of aisle X, moving your feet across the smooth concrete floor towards aisle Y, which is the aisle dedicated to signs and display materials. The air here smells of screen printing ink and corrugated plastic and the faint metallic scent of galvanized wire. You look at the shelves filled with stacks of pre-printed plastic signs, red and white rectangles that shout in the dark but make no sound. You see a stack of for sale signs, bold white letters on a red background, waiting to be placed in a lawn, waiting to sell a house. But here they are sold to the shelf, owned by the darkness. You run your hand over the surface of a sign, feeling the raised ink, feeling the ridges of the corrugated plastic underneath. Hollow and light, you see a stack of help wanted signs, black letters on white, calling out for workers, calling out for action, but the work is done, the jobs are filled. The only help wanted here is the help to sleep. You see the metal H stakes used to hold the signs, bundles of thin wire frames, cold and silvery. You touch the wire. It vibrates with a faint metallic hum. Ping, holding the potential to stand upright in the earth, but now lying flat, lying prone. Just like you want to lie prone. You look at the reversible, open/closed signs hanging on a rack, the ones with the little clock hands to show when you will return. You flip one of the signs over in your mind, turning it from the red, open, to the blue, closed, setting the clock hands to never, setting the return time to morning. The shop is closed, the business is closed, the mind is closed. You walk past the brass stencils, interlocking metal plates with letters and numbers cut out of them. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. You run your finger over the cutout of the letter Z, tracing the shape, the sharp metal edges. Z, Z, Z. A letter made of emptiness, a letter made of air, waiting to be painted, waiting to spell out the sound of sleep. You see the sidewalk chalkboards, A-frame signs with black slate surfaces, standing folded and flat, hiding their faces. You imagine writing a message on the board with white chalk, a soft, dusty scrawl, Quiet, please. Do not disturb. But you have no chalk. You have no words. The slate remains black, absorbing the light, absorbing the room. You see the rolls are magnetic. Sheeting, dark brown rubbery material rolled up tight. You unroll a few inches. It fights you. Wanted to curl back up, wanted to return to the spiral. You let it snap back, plop, a dull rubbery sound that ends instantly. The magnetism is sleeping. The attraction is paused. Nothing sticks. Nothing holds. Everything is letting go. You feel the visual noise of the signs fading away, the red and the white and the black blurring into a uniform gray. The messages are meaningless in the dark. They are just shapes, just plastic, just silence. You turn your back on the signs. Turn your back on the instructions. You do not need to be told what to do. You know what to do. You need to walk back to the cotton, walk back to the nest. Your legs are moving automatically now, carrying you back to aisle H. The journey is a blur of gray shelves and concrete floor. You reach the moving blankets and sink down immediately. The transition from standing to lying is the sweetest feeling of all. The gravity claims you completely, pulling you flat, pulling you deep. You pull the heavy quilt up to your chin, burying your face in the fabric, smelling the dust, smelling the peace. You close your eyes and see the closed sign in your mind, hanging on the door of your consciousness, steady and blue and still. The lights are out behind the door. The lock is turned. The day is done. You leave the signs and the silent messages of aisle Y behind you, walking into the deepest shadow at the very edge of the warehouse floor, approaching the final row, aisle Z, which is the aisle dedicated to leather goods, portfolios, and zippered cases. The air here is heavy and rich with the smell of tan leather and vinyl and the metallic tang of brass zippers. It is a smell of finality, a smell of closing up shop. You look at the shelves filled with leather portfolios, black and brown. Rectangles standing tall like silent books. You pull a black leather portfolio from the shelf. The material is soft and pebbled under your fingers, warm to the touch. You open it up, feeling the spine give way. Inside is a pad of yellow legal paper and a loop for a pen, but the paper is blank and the loop is empty. You run your hand over the pockets on the inside cover, tight leather slots waiting for business cards, waiting for papers. But there is nothing to hold, nothing to present. You close the portfolio, flop. The sound is muffled and dull. You look at the zipper run around the edge of a large document case, a track of interlocking metal teeth. You hold the pull tab, a small piece of cold brass, and you pull it slowly. Zip. The sound is a long, continuous hiss. The sound of the letter Z itself. The sound of sleeping. The sound of closing. You watch the teeth lock together, one by one, merging two sides into one, sealing the case, sealing the day. You look at the bank deposit bags, heavy canvas sacks with sturdy zippers and locks, designed to hold money, designed to hold value. You touch the coarse weave of the canvas. It is rough and durable. You imagine putting your consciousness inside the bag, zipping it shut, locking it with a tiny key, and dropping it into the night deposit box. Clunk. Safe and secure. Gone until morning. You see the rows of pencil cases, small vinyl pouches in every color. You squeeze one. It is soft and empty, puffing air out of the corners, a little lung of plastic. You look at the letter Z painted on the aisle marker above you. The last letter, the end of the line, the final shape, a zigzag line that mimics the shape of your sleeping body. A line that goes back and forth and then stops. There is nowhere else to go after Z. There are no more aisles, no more products. You've seen it all. You've counted it all. The inventory is finished. The alphabet is exhausted. You feel a profound sense of completion washing over you, a heavy wave of satisfaction. The job is done. The walk is done. You turn around and look back down the long, dark tunnel of the warehouse, seeing the faint outlines of the other aisles, A through Y, all silent, all sleeping, all watching you. You begin the final walk back to your sanctuary in aisle H, moving slower than ever, your feet barely lifting off the floor, sliding through the dust, sliding to the quiet. You pass the boxes, past the shelves, past the history of the night. You reach the moving blankets, and they seem to glow with a faint blue invitation. The nest is ready. The bed is made. You sit down, and the heavy quilt wraps around you like a final layer of skin. You lie down, and the floor holds you up. The earth holds you up. You close your eyes and hear the sound of the zipper in your mind. Zip, close in the world, close in the warehouse, close in the story. You are at the end. You are at the Z. You are at the sleep. You are completely still now, lying in the center of the dark warehouse, wrapped in the heavy blue cotton of the moving blankets. The tour is finished. The aisles are empty. The alphabet is complete. There is nowhere left to walk and nothing left to see. You feel the concrete floor pushing up against your back, a solid, unshakable support that has been waiting for you all night. You feel the weight of your own body sinking into the floor, melting into the gray slab, becoming heavy like the pallets, becoming heavy like the steel. You let your attention drift to your feet. They are warm and heavy. Two anchors dropped in the deep sea of the night. You let your attention drift to your legs. They are long and loose, the muscles detaching from the bone, the tension dissolving like sugar in hot water. You feel your hips settling, your spine aligning with the flat earth, vertebra by vertebra, clicking into a line of rest, clicking into a line of sleep. You feel your shoulders drop away from your ears, falling down toward the floor, giving up the weight of the arms, giving up the weight of the day. Your hands are curled softly in the darkness, holding nothing, grasping nothing, open and empty and still. You feel your neck relax, your head tipping back slightly into the pillow of the folded blanket, your jaw unhinging, your tongue resting on the floor of your mouth, your eyes sinking deep into their sockets, looking back into the skull, looking back into the quiet. You listen to the sound of your own breathing, a slow, rhythmic rasp that sounds like paper sliding against paper. You visualize the warehouse in your mind one last time, a vast cathedral of stillness, and you begin to turn off the lights in your mind, flipping the heavy breakers one by one. Clunk. The lights in the shipping dock go out. Clunk. The lights in the office go out. Clunk. The lights in the break room go out. Clunk. The lights in the main aisles go out, row by row, section by section, the darkness rushing in to fill the space, the shadows merging into one solid block of black, until there's only one small light left, a tiny pilot light deep inside your chest, glowing soft and warm, and you watch it dim, you watch it fade, turning down the dial, turning down the heat, until it's just a spark, until it's just a memory of light, and then puff, it is gone. The warehouse is dark, the mind is dark, the world is dark. There is no separation between you and the room. No separation between you and the floor. You are the warehouse. You are the silence. You are the sleep, drifting down to the layers of cotton, drifting down to the layers of concrete, into the earth, into the stone, into the deep, quiet, final rest.